Choosing the form of a business entity. These are the issues that you have to consider when deciding how to form your business. First of all, understand that each form of business that we're going to be looking at and that's available is going to have pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages to doing business in that particular form. Now, it's up to the attorney, working with the client, working with other experts like tax experts, to decide which of these entities would be the most advantageous to the client after talking to the client and determining the client's needs. Now, the issues that we consider are going to be the formalities involved, management, ownership restrictions, taxation, and liability. Let's look at formalities. Formalities involved with a business form are going to differ from business form to business form. There are going to be some business forms that are very simple on the formality end of it, like sole proprietor or general partnership. These two business forms have no formalities. Sure, with a general partnership, you could perhaps have and probably should have, a partnership agreement that's signed by all the partners, but it's not required. These two business forms just happen automatically. If one person does business as a sole proprietor, it just happens automatically. If two people get together or more people get together for a business enterprise and they don't have a formal written agreement, but they're acting like a partnership, carrying on as a partnership, the law is going to say that they're working as a partnership and there's no formality involved to form it. Now, there will be other business forms that there is quite a bit of formality involved. Talking about the limited partnership, a corporation, or a limited liability company. All of those take special filings with, frequently it's the Secretary of State of a state to create those business forms, to those business entities, and you have to periodically report. So you've got filings, reportings, other documents that have to be prepared, and a lot of documents to be kept up with that perhaps may not even be filed. So there's a lot of formality involved with some of these companies. You're going to be preparing certificate of formation, or in some states still may be called this article of incorporation, to form the entity. You've got bylaws that state how these entities will operate. And you've got minutes of meetings of the owners that may be called shareholder meetings or members meetings. So there's a lot of formality here. And the thing is, if you don't follow the formalities, you don't keep up with the formalities of some of these entities, then you risk the loss of that corporate status or the loss of that status of whatever it is, and you're subjecting the owners of the corporation to possible personal liability for the debts of that entity. So that's someplace where the owners don't want to end up. So you've got to stay on top of formalities. So that may or may not be suitable for some business owners and their particular needs. Management. Management is another issue that some business owners want to be active in the running of the business. That's great. Other business owners just want to be investors and they don't want to be actively involved. So let's talk about this for a minute. Sole proprietorship, general or limited liability partnership, or even something what we call the S corporation or subchapter S corporation, or a limited liability company. All of those are very suitable for the people who have invested and are owning to then participate as well in the running of the business. Now, other owners may say, I just want to invest. I don't want to have anything to do with the running of the business. It's just an investment to me. Well, maybe being a limited partner in an enterprise would be more suitable, or investing in a corporation where they just buy the stock maybe elect, vote for directors, and that's the extent of their involvement with the corporation. So management is so very, very important, and we often see that in those situations where the owners participate in management, those are generally frequently going to be situations where there is some liability for the owners or some of the owners. So with management comes frequently liability, an issue to consider. Business forms will sometimes put restrictions on who can be an owner and who can't. You know, once you're in a business, it's a small business, you want to be very choosy about who's going to be your co-owner. And you're very interested in promoting harmony and good feelings with your co-managers and co-owners. Well, one good way to do that is restrict who's going to be coming into the corporation with you, to restrict ownership. Well, limited liability companies, limited liability partnership, closely held corporations, those types of entities will allow a restriction on who can participate in the business. And however, you've got to understand that this isn't going to be suitable for people who want to just invest in the business. If they're going to invest, they may say, well, I don't want to participate. That was one of the other issues in management. But here the issue is, I just want to invest. And if you're going to put a restriction on who can invest and who I have to sell to, well, that's going to restrict my ability to get out of my investment if I want to do that. So people who want to invest, these business forms may not be right for them. So ownership restrictions, another consideration. Taxation, this is a biggie. Corporations, business corporations are double taxed. Profits from the corporation are taxed at the corporate level by way of the corporate income tax, both the federal and if you've got a state corporate income tax, corporations are going to be taxed. Then when the profits, what's left after the taxes, is passed on to the owners, the shareholders, or the members, or whatever they're called, well, those shareholders here are going to be taxed as they receive their dividend on their personal income tax. So it's double taxation. Well, we do have, now that's with a business corporation. What we do have is some pass-through arrangements with several business entities, the way they're set up or just the way they are. Profits are passed through and the entity is not a tax-paying entity. And so it's the owner that pays the income tax. It's not double taxed. That would be partnerships. The partners are taxed, not the partnership. Limited liability companies, the members are taxed, not the company. S corporations, and if you elect to do it that way and set it up a corporation as an S corporation, then the profits are passed through and applied directly to the shareholders, and they have to pay their proportionate share of taxes. And finally, we have liability. Liability is one of the most important issues that is out there when we try to decide what is my business form going to be, because I don't want to be personally sued over obligations and debts that are incurred in the business. You know, I want the business to be responsible. I don't want myself to be responsible, okay? Well, we've got a couple of arrangements that provide extensive liability protection for the owners. That would be corporations, because corporations are organizations distinct from their owners. So it's the corporation that is liable for the obligations, not the individual owners. Limited liability companies also have that same protection. Now, in other arrangements, the owners are totally unprotected against that or from that personal liability for the debts of the business. Sole proprietors, well, that just makes sense. The sole proprietor is the business, and the business is the sole proprietor. They're one and the same under the eyes of the law. No way to escape liability there, but yet some people will still operate some businesses with a lot of cash flow and with a lot of employees. They'll still operate as sole proprietor. It's not a real smart way of doing things, but maybe flexibility with management and information and so forth, and maybe that's more important to them. But liability is a big issue on those people. Same thing with general partners. General partnership, you have liability exposure there too. If I've got a partner that's hiring an employee that's going to be very negligent and that maybe does cause accidents, I am bound by that employee's actions while they're in the course and scope of the employment with the partnership. Even though I didn't hire them, even though I may not be supervising them directly, most directly, I'm a general partner, I'm going to be liable. So general partners are liable for all the debts and obligations of the business entity. So liability, one of the most important issues of all of these that we've talked about in considering how am I going to form my business.